Hello all, it's Luton here, and back for another round, another full round breakdown, and we're on strike at Karkand today. And I'm picking up the KH-2002 as my weapon choice for today because it's pretty good all around. It can be good at long range, close range, depending on how you're using it, what setup you go with. Running with just a standard hollow and heavy barrel for this weapon. So let's see, we'll go along as we normally do. We'll break down the plus and minus elements of this video, the things that I do wrong, the things that other people do wrong, the things that we do right, the things that we do well, the things that people could do well, and we'll see what happens. So to begin with, we were pushing down the hill. I remember quite clearly in the round saying, what the hell are you doing, Armour? You need to be down the road here. And here we go, they're streaming in now. I was also playing with Apso here. He is John, the engineer from Battlefield Friends. It was great to get some games with him again, see him dropping by my server, which was very nice. A lot of people have said, oh Luton, can you do live comms with John and the guys from it? There was also Chris, I think he's the sniper from Battlefield Friends was on today as well. And they were saying, people always asking me, can you do like live comms, etc, etc. Yes, I can, but it's very difficult when people just drop by on your server to say, hey dude, can you just hop on Skype and we'll completely set up all the audio required to record those rounds? So funnily enough, they don't have live comm today. But it is something I want to do. I'll try and set it up, but you know, it's a pain in the arse. It's not as easy to do when you're running console to PC. It's another downside of running on console compared to PC, is the fact that when you're trying to do stuff like live comm, if you're on PC, you're all there on the computer already, so it's very easy to literally just plug your mics in and start recording. And especially if you're running with something like Skype or however you want to do it, Skype, TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, whatever program you want to be recording with. But on the console, it's over there, and you know, the mic input doesn't work the same. You have to set it up and the cabling and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, it can be a bit of a pain, and not everyone has the right setup as well. That's the other thing to remember, is that, you know, it's just an extra thing to set up, and not everybody has that. Anyway, so you can see we've pretty much pushed in here, cleared it out. This first base can always be very, it can be actually tricky to defend, but it can also be easy to defend just depending on how people are playing it out. The good thing about it is that there's a lot of cover, a lot of defensive areas that you can control as defenders. You can get on top of the rooftops. That allows you to shoot down onto vehicles. It allows you to kind of sit back and control. You don't need to be worried too much about picking off snipers. The downside of it is that if those vehicles clear things out and get in there, they're right on you close range, and it means they can really give you a devastating beating. Now we're moving up this hill here, and this is a classic error. I was actually pointing out to the guys you can see right behind me here because they weren't sort of fully aware of this route, which everyone should be by now, but they weren't. You can see we're moving straight round here onto B. Now this is a couple of good points coming up about this section here. Now the first is, you watch me, I'm just going straight in on the objective, okay? None of the enemies seem to be around. And then what do I spy? Oh look, I managed to get a spot on him, okay? And that is, there's 2 points to make there. One is, I turned around while I was arming, okay? You should always do this. When you arm an MCOM, don't just stand there with your face pressed up against the MCOM, alright? Turn around. Turn around so that you can defend yourself. You can see if there's anyone hiding. You can try and communicate to your team, and that's what I managed to do. Second point to make, even if you can't get the kill, try and spot the target. That guy up there on the top of that wall there who killed me, I wasn't going to be able to get a shot on him, alright, because he had a perfect line of sight. He was just aiming down there at the MCOM. You know, by the time I'd spotted him, I didn't have any chance to take him out. However, I did get the spot on him, and I also on team chat communicated to my team, there's a guy sitting on top, he's marked blah blah blah, you know. Look at this, unfortunate spawn grenade. Oh, and I'm going down again. You see here, you see all this wasted time here. This really gets on my nerves. And then if this was a couple of other rounds I played tonight, I'd get rezzed again, and then I'd be like another 5 seconds, then I'd go down again, and then I'd be trying to respawn. And then by the time you've done all that, it's bloody like been a minute and you're not even back in the game. It really drives me mad. It was a couple of times we were playing Damavand, and I kept getting rezzed and down and rezzed and down, and people go, oh, you don't have to accept the revive, you don't have to accept the revive. I know that, but sometimes you don't have the time. You're trying to, you know, you're expecting it to come up with the respawn screen, all of a sudden you're getting revived, then you get shot, then you get revived, and you just get stuck in there. Anyway, a couple of things to note here. Failed taking that guy down, kind of moved out of the way. They've got a SOFLAM up on the top first floor between that building. It's important to note things like this when you're kind of moving around the map, because as I say, even if it doesn't influence you directly, you can communicate to other people and let you know the kind of issues that are going on. So I can see right up here, look, okay, up on that building there. Even though it doesn't affect me, I'm not in a vehicle, I was trying to communicate to these guys. I'm trying to deal with this tank because Kai Oh, Kai keeps telling me that that's not how to pronounce his name, but I don't know how to pronounce it. So I'm going to just keep calling him Kai. On my team, he's one of the guys that regularly comes to my server. He's a blinding player. Kai and Jizz are a devastating team when they get together. And he's sitting in the tank. Now, knowing that I know him as a player, I was saying to the guys it's ultimately important to take that vehicle down, because it will just... He's a very good guy in terms of sitting back and just farm, repair. He'll just sit back and pummel you from a distance. But luckily, from where he is, the rest of his team are not really pushing forward enough. They're sitting back, and this is a classic error to make. You can see right now, right here, we got one of my teammates from my clan up there on top of the roof. Couldn't get the kill on him at that range, but I did put several hit markers enough to scare him off that roof. And yeah, when you're defending, as I've said so many times, infinitely, you can't just sit back, and you can see what's happened now. Look, we managed to pretty much completely surround their base here. But as defenders, if you sit back at the point of or behind the MCOM, you have no real control, because what will happen is the attackers will move up to you, and then as soon as they get 1 or 2 kills, they're on their MCOM and they can get it armed, and that really puts you at a disadvantage. So you need to move forward so that even if you do get taken out, it allows other people to be rezzed and like come up behind you to constantly like fill the numbers in front. So it means you've always got people in the front, you've always got people that the attackers have to deal with before they get to the base. What you want is kind of a line of defenders, a couple of guys in front, so that they have like that kind of, again I'm going to use the word that I use so many times, buffer. Okay, you need that buffer of people so that you can break through. One of the other things I want to talk about is you know, when you're defending, and it's a really quite catastrophic error that people constantly make, and it's when people are defending, one MCOM gets armed. This happened almost every other game I play, and I have to say the last 2 weeks have been miserably depressing in terms of watching people's kind of general awareness in game. You see one MCOM get armed or one guy get armed, and you watch them do this yourself, right? When you're in a game, watch when an MCOM gets armed, watch when a conquest base starts to get tagged, watch when an enemy gets spotted. At that point, look at your local minimap and watch what happens. What I see so many times, and it makes me want to cry, is I see 6 to 8 people all flocking like a big herd of sheep all to that one place, and they just abandon an entire area of the map. I'm like, what are you doing? It is mind-bogglingly stupid, and I don't want to say that lightly. And people go, oh Ludy, this is, I know exactly the comments I'm going to get today. Oh Ludy, you're being so mean on your team, Sorry, okay, but if people are doing that, it's stupid, okay? I can't say something is if it isn't, alright? Yeah, if people are making a absolutely stupid error, I can't say that it isn't, alright? Because it is. If you just abandon an entire section of the map and leave no one there, alright, that is a stupid thing to do. Which is why, if you look back through my videos, alright, there are many rounds where I am just sitting where nothing is happening, and I'm just watching an area, and then all of a sudden what will happen is there'll be a lot of fighting going on another area of the map, okay, and I'm just sitting and waiting, I'm just covering that area, maybe have like one of my team members there, one of my squad members with me, and yeah, there's nothing going on. And then all of a sudden they get to like 20-30 tickets, and they've been on the other side of the map fighting, and all of a sudden they're all on my side, and lo and behold, I managed to get a load of kills, and maybe I take out a few people, maybe I go down, maybe I don't, but the important thing is that I was there. I was there to mark the targets, I was there to put up some sort of fight, and most importantly of all, I was there to provide a small amount of resistance until the rest of my team can move over there. However, if I was not there, and if nobody was there because they all moved to a different area of the map, you have no defense, you have no control, you have nothing whatsoever. And what will happen, the attackers, as pretty much what we have been doing on that first base and second base as well, you just move through with no resistance at all. And then before you know it, as defenders, you have an entire attacking team either by your side or behind you, and you've been overwhelmed before you even had a chance to do anything. And that is one of the worst mistakes that I see every single time I play, and it's mind-boggling. And the worst part of it is it doesn't even require... People will say, oh, but you know, you can't expect public teams to do these things, blah blah blah. Excuse me, seriously? it only requires 1 or 2 people. 1 or 2 people like that whole team, including generally myself, because I often find myself putting in positions where I'm not getting the most action, I'm not getting the most kills, or I'm having to deal with a tank, or I'm having to do something, generally doing things that I maybe don't want to do but require, okay, so sort of filling in all the gaps, doing the shit jobs that nobody else really wants to do but need doing in order to be, have any modicum of being mildly successful. And also, just to point out, okay, this doesn't mean, right, before people hit this one as well, right, this doesn't mean that it makes you an astonishing player, because I'm not. I've said this a million times. I am an average player, alright? I have good rounds, I have bad rounds, I have rounds where I do stupid mistakes, I have rounds where I'm very smart, okay? It's just a balanced average thing, alright, okay? So anybody can do this, anybody can do it. All it requires is just having the will, the discipline, and the self-sense to actually, having the mindset to actually think, hey, there's a load of enemies over there, but it's more important and more dangerous that we go to a different area of the map and just, hold on to that thing at the moment. So that's one of the biggest things that's bugging me at the moment. And like I say, it doesn't require the whole team even. It literally requires maybe 1 or 2 people. If you're in a game, okay, if you're in a game and there's like 2 of you guys, maybe sort of think about this, okay? Try and think, okay, the rest of the team are over there, but is there anybody to the right? Is there anyone still covering that MCOM? It's very quiet over there. If it's very quiet in an area of the map, chances are it won't stay that way, okay? If there's a whole area and you think, oh, there's nothing going on there, we don't need to worry about it. The areas where there's nothing going on the map are the areas that I worry about the most. And for example, on Conquest, if a base has had nothing going on to it for a while, everyone's like, oh, they're coming to sea, they're coming to sea. At that point, I usually look at the map and think, well, they're all here at the Mo, but we don't have anyone over here. And your enemy will notice this. If you notice that you don't have anyone down there, the enemy will notice it too, and then they will go there. So if you can preempt that, and you can start moving to a location before it actually gets capped, as I say, often you don't even have to defend it, but just putting up some level of resistance or making the rest of your team aware of it is equally as important. So anyway, we're heading up towards the end of this round now. I'll be interested though to hear what you guys think about the things I've been saying today. Do you disagree? Do you think that I'm just talking a load of crap? Do you think that I'm being unfair to people and that they should just be allowed to do whatever the hell they want? Or do you think that it's sound advice that as a sensible Battlefield player you should actually take these things into consideration and think about it from time to time? Everybody's going to have rounds where they kind of screw around and they get in a jet and blah blah blah. Totally accept it. However, you can't imagine that every single player on a team would be doing that throughout every single game that you play. So therefore, there should be a balance of people that are playing sensibly and people that are not. And you would expect that, generally you get maybe a third of your team maybe not taking it so seriously, the rest of the team probably being a little bit more balanced in their approach. So I think it's fair to say that there should be enough people on every game that you play who are kind of taking things sensibly enough to fill in these roles, and you should get a balanced game for the most part. But let me know what you guys think, because I really want to. Also, I'm going to be trying to set up some kind of, comment reply system this week. I'm going to be trying to I have an idea for another new video series, so I'm going to try and work on that. It's not going to be like, every day, every week or whatever, but yeah, I have a little idea for that one. Anyway, so coming up to the end of here, so you can see that my kind of role changed. I changed out to the engineer in this piece because we have the tank right here. I was trying to make a really hard push here over onto B, didn't make it because that tank kind of snuck around the corner, came up on me. But you'll notice as well that I was sitting back in the tank and we were like laying fire down. Notice who's in the tank again, Kai, by the way. So I decided to change out my class, get in here, because I was like, guys, come on, we're going to go on to B, blah, blah, blah. Again, it just points out something that I've said a million times before, which is that you need to, decide at which point you're going to change up your class in order to help your team. Staying in the same role throughout any round is not always beneficial, and you need to know when to cut your chances, even if it means damaging your KD stats, whatever. Doing what I'm doing now and changing to infantry to attack the final base where the enemies are all crowded around it is high risk. As good as you can be, you're facing a superior, sort of concentration of enemies, and there's a very high chance that I'm going to get picked off from any distance as I approach. But looking at who else is around, you can see my guys on the right, my guys on the left. So as I come up here, I'm trying to watch these guys out here by the containers, and I'm also watching slightly to my right. You see my guys in my squad here pushing forward, so you can see, look, by the weight of numbers we've managed to move in and clear this. They had a very strong defensive position here, and if we had stayed back with 1s and 2s, we hadn't really pushed forward, the tank going 1, you know, we wouldn't have probably got this base. But we're only 30 tickets to go, so we've still got plenty of tickets, but we made a really strong attack, really threw everyone in, threw everyone onto it, and that kind of strength attack is really what you need to take these bases. You can't mince around on last bases or difficult bases, you just have to throw everything at it. You have to get in there, you just have to lay it on, and that's the only way you're going to get these things done. Thanks for watching today, guys. A little bit of a rant, a little bit of a constructive rant, I think, but I hope you've appreciated it. As I say, I am interested to see what you guys think. I always read comments, so please drop them down below. If you've enjoyed this, please drop a little like and a share. Always helps me out. I'll have some more Battlefield 3 breakdown discussion commentaries coming up very soon, including have another Battlefield roundtable on the way soon when I can get that one done. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.